Hello, everybody. It's Monday Funday with Squid and the Bear. I'm on my way to Squid's house. You know him as Mitch. However, he was in the Navy, so he's a squid, and I'm a bear. And I'm going to go over there and eat some of their food because they're nice people. And we're going to talk about some garden stuff and some solar cooking stuff and whatever else we feel like talking about. So this is the intro video to the video that I'm about to video. So stand by. Who else would it be? I think it's right.
Yes.
Is that hot?
Woo!
Or something?
Ish.
Ish? Hot-ish?
We'll do a little video when it's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just... Here, hold on. I need to get it. Let me block this with my girth. Hayden, like you've never said that phrase before. No, you're not. Solar oven. That looks good.
Last year's tomatoes.
This is gonna be the best video ever. Okay, so this is the sun oven, right? And there's chili in there, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we're not even directly pointing at the sun right now. And your temp is what?
250.
250. Oh, you can feel the heat coming off of that thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see the steam off of it.
Yeah.
But again, putting something into practice. Right. I walked by it when I came in for lunch, and I was like, man, I ought to break that out and throw everything in it. Frozen block of beef, all the ingredients, canned tomatoes from last year. Just threw it all in there, did a mix, set it, and let it sit. Came back to work, so
right.
You know, now it's been about 5 hours. And the cool thing about it is how you can sight in. There's actual sight here. If you come around
Right.
and point your camera this way.
Right.
Oh, stay out of the sun though.
Okay. Oh yeah, I see that.
You're going to see a little circle there. And so lining it up over that other circle optimizes your cooking temperature.
Cool.
And so what I'll usually do is every 30 minutes if I'm home, I line it up so I get ahead of it.
Right.
It travels across.
Right.
And then adjust it.
Right.
And then the awesome thing is at the end of your whenever you're done cooking, don't adjust it. It's going to start falling off, and the temperature will come down to more like a warm. And
that's
it can
cool.
sit there holding until you're ready to pull it out. But this minimizes a footprint, minimizes smoke if you had to cook something. In any disaster.
In a non-permissive environment where you can't make a fire.
Yep.
Cool.
So any disaster, I mean, you could be cooking that day, and so I've used this a bunch. I've cooked pizzas in it.
Cool.
With crispy crust.
Cool.
I've made bread in it. I've done a variety of things in it just to try it out to see if it could do it. Because one of my concerns with any type of bread products were how much humidity is inside the oven.
Right.
And it had no effect on it. So
that's cool.
This is actually one that they market to Africa.
Okay.
And here's the even
because
cool...
of your deep African heritage.
Yes, exactly.
You went with this one.
I did.
Clearly.
Yep. You know, my tribe back there. I just try to stay connected with it.
Up there in Scandinavia, Africa. yeah, gotcha.
And so the cool thing about this is I got this so I could try this out.
Right.
If you have a homestead or you have someplace permanent, you could actually build this into the ground.
Oh, that's cool.
All it requires, and I'll open it up now, all it requires is a glass pane to go on top. This is literally just two screwed holes, one smaller than the other. I mean, feel the heat in here.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And so this is a pot that's bigger than what I'd normally use, but it's because we got you over for dinner. So
because I eat a lot.
I needed to make enough.
Right.
But what you'll see, we'll look at this in a second, and I don't have it hooked on right now. But when it's not oversized, and I've got it on the rails, as you adjust it in the back,
right,
for the angle.
As you adjust the angle,
That thing swings and keeps it level.
that swings and keeps it level.
That's cool.
So I mean, very, very easy setup. It locks down. I mean, you've got a seal that goes around this.
Right.
And handles itself. Break down into itself.
That's awesome.
And then fasten in. And I've got the carry handle.
That's cool.
So here's...
And we're going to eat dinner out of this thing.
We're going to eat dinner. You can see the smoke coming off of it, the steam coming off of it. That's last year's canned tomatoes, black bean chili.
And like 6 pounds of peppers in there, look like.
Well, some onions, some red onion. And literally when I threw this in there, I don't know, 12:30-ish, 12:45, the meat was a frozen block. And so I broke it up when I got home. My wife stirred it once when she got home with the kids, so.
Right.
We eat.
You're like one of them dang preppers, man. We're amazing. We're so amazing. All we do is prepare. Like that's like all we do. We're like preparedness ninjas. I'm not gonna brag or anything. I don't know. What do you like? A 15th degree black belt in preparedness ninjaing?
At least.
At least, yeah. Okay. Cool. We're gonna look at a garden. You're cleared hot. Send it.
All right. We thought we would give you a special walkthrough to the things I've done at our house. And but first I want to explain kind of why we ended up where we ended up. So we're outside of a metropolitan area, well outside of it. We actually found 15 acres, all cross fenced, prior to purchasing the house we're on. Yeah. We live in a neighborhood that's outside of even the small town we're in.
Hold on, I'm gonna pan.
Surrounded by mostly fields, and there's about 70-ish 1 acre lots here. One of the reasons why we came to choosing this place versus the place we found before that had 15 acres was those guys were 3 and 1.5 at the time.
Right.
And I walked through. It just got broke, baby. I walked through the house. It was beautiful, loved it. Copper countertops, had a separate 40 by 60 shed, all cross fence, ready for animals. And the boys were sleeping, so we had to go one at a time. I came back out and my wife went in, and I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we've been looking for. And I looked through the window and I see the 2 little dudes sleeping, and I looked around and there was nothing.
I remember that. I remember you telling me about that.
And I was traveling at the time for work. After I retired, I did some federal consulting for a handful of years until I switched to the position I'm in now, where I'm home. But I traveled a lot, 45 plus weeks a year, Monday to Thursday. And so my thoughts on this place was, okay, yeah, my kids have other kids to play with, but this is a mobilizable neighborhood.
Right.
I could mobilize everybody in here in case of a disaster or any type of event that happened, and that would be the plan, is to bring everybody together in a defensible, small neighborhood, because there's no way I'm not bugging out.
Right.
I'm not going anywhere with a 7 and 5-year-old and a baby on the way.
Right.
It's not going to happen. I might as well write our death sentence right there in a real situation, because they're not going to be quiet.
Right.
They're going to be crazy, and you'll be done. So I think realistically, when you think, originally when I first started kind of becoming more prepared and my eyes opening up, I thought that, oh, here I am. I'm gonna pack it all up. We're gonna hit the woods, and we're gonna go, and everything's gonna be great. And you've got to really think about the capabilities of the people who are in your group, and whether or not it's feasible to be able to do whatever action that is. So,
Yep.
All right, we'll go ahead and start over here. So one of the things, I like to have a mix of perennials as well as your seasonal stuff, and then really trying to think around, being able to produce as much as I can from fruit to a vegetable standpoint. So over here, it might be a little dark because it's out of the sun, and I haven't picked this yet today, but I have 30 32 linear feet of asparagus that I planted when we first moved in, and we've eaten so much already this year that this is now, I mean, paying for itself. It's probably been 20 bunches of asparagus at this point. And so not only, I mean, we love asparagus, but it's a huge money saver too. So even in times like now.
Yeah, it's $4 a bundle.
Yeah. So I'm picking, you know, roughly a bundle a day right now, and I have a fridge with a pan with water in the bottom of it, in our garage fridge that's full of this right now. Baby, don't walk over there. You got to walk over here, right in the middle. And so, I mean,
yeah.
Look at the size of
dude.
this asparagus, and I mean, it's absolutely delicious. I actually caught my 5-year-old when he was 4, 3.5 out here one day. I thought I had a pest because the tops were chewed up, and then I finally caught my 5-year-old, who's 3.5. He was out here biting off the tops of the asparagus and eating it fresh, so, which is awesome because we're teaching him to eat fresh food.
Yeah, he could be addicted to sugar.
Exactly.
Yeah, but instead he's eating asparagus. Incoming. Shelter in place.
Apple trees.
Yep.
They're just starting to flower now. These are actually 4-in-1 apple trees, grafted onto a single rootstock.
Right.
And the reason I got these is that with most pollinators, apple trees, fruit trees, you need more than one of that tree.
Yes.
So this is a great example of something. If you live in a small house, small backyard, where you could still plant a tree and be able to get the harvest off of it without having to plant two if you had limited size.
So it self-pollinates, is what you're saying?
Basically, it's got pollinators on it. And so I got another one here. They're 3 years old, 3.5 years old.
Where's the green ball?
And then this was existing apple tree over here.
Where's the green ball?
On the
We
far
don't
side
know
here.
where the green ball
We
is.
don't know where the green ball is.
Eyeballs would be helpful.
Look over there. But that was an existing apple tree that was here.
Right.
And so it was pretty beat up though, so I've been nursing it over the last few years. And I may end up cutting the tree itself and letting this new growth grow up.
Right.
And starting a new tree because of it. That's fine. So I had started an olive tree that I've had for about 5 years that was in a pot.
Right.
But for some reason last year it didn't take and died. But I have a tree that I'm going to replace it with, and I think it's called what is it called? Jujube.
Jujube, yeah.
It's a jujube, and it produces fruit that has a texture of an apple, but has a brown sugar kind of maple flavor to it. Please don't shoot me. Stay out of the garden.
Just like that, you shut them down.
So broad look. One of the main things that I've been working on is actually taking a hardneck garlic, and over the last 4 years have been adapting it to Texas climate. Normally hardnecks are only in the northern latitudes because they require a certain amount of cold days, and then they require a certain amount of light. And so it's taken 4 years to go from about 20% good bulbs to now I'm getting, last year I got 60 or 70% that were really nice, solid. So this year I think is going to be even better. This is the best it's ever looked. But the idea on this is to adapt it to the climate here. I try to seed save everything I produce with the objective of planting seeds that know my environment.
Right, so they adapt to your soil and your cold and your sun and all of that.
Put that back.
I didn't put it somewhere.
No, go put it back.
On my back. Ow.
There, put it there. So that's the two big beds, and obviously that went in last November. See right there, you can see them.
Yep.
They'll pick garlic and onion leaves right off the plants and just chew on them. We got a mint patch as well. They'll do the same thing.
Yeah, I saw that earlier.
So right here, I've got a bunch of different lettuces and greens started.
Yep.
And if you see growth on one is a lot more than growth on another, there's a reason for it. I'm succession planting it. And so about every 10 days I do another planting.
Right.
Because if I just planted this entire bed, I would get an entire bed of lettuce at the same
You'd be
time.
inundated with lettuce and could never eat it all before it went bad. And that stuff doesn't really freeze or can or keep well. Or
Any plants right here?
There's not any. You can dig right there.
So I can plant something right here?
Well, we're going to put tomatoes there, bud. So in between the rows, you can see that I've got some bags. These are, again, really cool for a place that doesn't have a lot of space, or you can't put a permanent garden in. They're grow bags, and so these are 15-gallon. And normally I don't do potatoes because potatoes are so cheap in the store. There's no reason to. And you know, but it was funny. I was reading. I have a county history book from the county I was born in.
How do we make tomatoes?
And it has a story in there about my relatives going off to fight a war in Prussia, and on their return brought back some of the first potatoes to Sweden. And the comment in there, the quote in there, was that they used to boil them and spread them on bread like butter. And I never got that comment, because anytime I've ever done potatoes, like, they're lumpy, till the first time I grew potatoes, and literally when it came out of the water, I got why it could be spread, because of, you know, growing them myself. You know, they're as fresh as can be as soon as you take them out. They're not 2-3 weeks old,
and thin
by the time you
skinned,
get them,
delicious and tender,
and unbelievably good.
Yep.
So my wife loves having potatoes, and so that's the only reason I would grow them now. I've got half a bed of okra started over here. Great for canning, and I'll pickle a bunch of okra and can it this year. The other half will be tomatoes, which I've still got in pots growing. Here, I need some weeding here, but some peppers have started. This bed's going to be all tomatoes as well. And then I'm going to be doing a Three Sisters garden over here. Three Sisters garden is corn,
Mr. TJ.
corn, pole beans, and some type of squash. I'm doing pumpkin, and so I just planted pumpkin the other day here, and so I'll have vines that will extend through the garden. And so the idea,
I'm hit.
The idea behind it is that the corn will provide the poles,
Right.
for the pole beans when I put them in to go up. And then the squash or the pumpkin, in my case, is going to provide a canopy. To help keep moisture in. And then the corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder.
Right.
Green beans put nitrogen back in.
Yeah, the beans feed nitrogen back into the soil, right?
So it keeps me balanced as far as pulling too much nitrogen out of the ground. So you can see I've got it trenched.
Right.
The reason I have it trenched is that once it gets tall enough, I will fill those trenches in. And the reason is that the legs that corn throw off, it'll help strengthen them, so when I got winds, they don't blow over. Yes, corn will right itself, but this just helps give it a little bit more strength.
And we get wind here.
We get wind here.
Yeah. A lot of wind here.
More potatoes over here. I'm succession planting beets, radishes, and carrots right now as well.
Right.
This bed is empty behind you, but that's going to be tomatoes too.
Okay.
And you can see onions on some sides of the rows.
Right.
And that's companion planting. They don't adversely affect each other when I'm putting in there, and so I'll throw in an extra row, and they also help repel some pests that you might get in those.
Right. Cool.
So peach tree here that I did the same thing with that apple tree 2 years ago, to where I took a shoot out of the ground, cut the old one off because it was damaged, and so I've already got that much growth in 2 years on that tree.
That looks awesome.
And then here's the oldest peach tree at our house.
I'm gonna find it.
And we're probably gonna have thousands of peaches this year. I mean, we already have some pretty good, significant growth on a lot of these peaches that are on the tree right now.
And it's middle / almost the end of April, right? Focus. 16th of April.
I'm climbing
And
the
it was-
tree.
Filled with fruit.
And it was in the 30s this past weekend.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm climbing the tree.
Yeah, we see you, Batman.
So 6 different varieties of tomatoes that I'm potting up and letting the roots get strong before I put them in. The interesting thing, if you see the taller one,
Yep.
what I'll do when I put them in is I'll clip off all the leaves up to the top leaves,
Right.
and I'll actually trench plant them, and every bit of that stem will throw roots. And so I'll be able to have that plant throw just this huge amount of roots, root system.
Awesome.
That'll make it just extremely strong and
How do these plants grow hard, pokey things on it?
they do.
Ow!
Haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet, but there's 12 blueberry bushes, 6 of each here. You can also see that this doesn't look like a blueberry. It's not. It is a peach plant, or a peach tree. And actually where that comes from, if you can see the peaches that pitted and grew. Don't step on those, Beckett. The peaches that pitted and grew, I actually cut a bunch of them up and replanted them, or I dug a bunch of those up.
Right.
And replanted them, and I got a couple that took, which will be new peach trees that I can either give to somebody probably in the neighborhood
Right.
to plant, and that just provides another tree in this neighborhood.
More calories you don't have to provide.
Exactly.
Right.
So this is kind of my experiment bed, and I'm doing potatoes in here as well, but instead of dirt, it's planted in the dirt about 6 inches below that. But what I'm doing is I'm hilling them over with wood chips, so
Right.
with these cedar chips, and I just want to see how it does. There are some really stubborn strawberries that will not die back there, which is not a bad thing. And I don't have any irrigation here either, so I have to actually hand water this.
Right.
But I did try to put some aloe in here, and it didn't make it through some of the cold spots. I thought it might come back up, but it didn't. And then the last thing that I would point out is the other set of trees that I have here, which, again, a couple sets of peach trees that are newer. I lost both of these trees 2 years ago when we had that drenching downpours.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, we had so much rain. I mean, you probably remember the news reports about Dallas being flooded.
The whole state was flooded. They had to open up the spillway on Texoma.
There was so much water that both of these trees just drowned. And I thought, okay, they're gone. I lost them. And then the next year, all of a sudden, some shoots started coming up. So, I mean, even these have some fruit on them. I'll probably clip most of this fruit so it can concentrate on developing the root system this year again, even though there's quite a few.
Yeah, right there.
But I mean, it's got them all over it as well.
I'm just pointing it out so people can see what, know what they're looking at.
Less fruit on this one, but same thing. And then one of the other things I've experimented with, I actually lost this tree last year, and it did the same thing. It threw up new sticks. Some of it looks like it's not going to grow, and I'll trim all that out as soon as I'm for sure that it's.
And what
that
is this?
branch. This is a fig tree.
Is it? I mean, look at the leaves.
Yeah. Oh, they're huge.
Yeah.
I mean, these are tiny right now, but basically, if you see some of these joints here where it branches off, normally, if you don't do anything, your branch looks like this,
Right.
and then you may get some growth the next year. So I did something with these called pinching it off.
Right.
You basically pinch the tip off, and it'll throw out laterals.
Gotcha.
And so I was trying to get it to throw laterals out to be stronger, and some of them took, some of them didn't. But I mean, I got some dirt piles strategically hidden under those useless trees. I just have composting. It's incoming.
Right.
And then I guess the last thing, I mean, I have another full-grown peach tree up front too that's full of them.
Right.
And then this thing, I put this in last fall, but I've got 5 Concord grapevines that I'm trying to get established. So that just adds something else to.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're like a green thumb or something. Something like that.
Lots of practice. I mean, that's the key to this whole thing is that I didn't just.
Wow.
I told you. Incoming.
Wow, that was a good shot.
Got it right in the chest.
I didn't just know how to do this overnight. I mean, growing up with my dad, we had a very large garden, so I learned a lot of this growing up.
Right.
But there's a lot of trial and error that I had to do, especially with some of the succession stuff. I made the mistakes early, planted an entire bed, and then next thing you know, it's like, okay, I can't even get this.
Now what? Yeah.
But those are the lessons that you want to learn now versus learning when you don't have the luxury to learn.
I just did a video on that earlier about how you should.
No.
If you hit me with that, I love you, kid, but I'm gonna break both of your legs, both of them, in two, sideways like this. Yeah. Okay. All right then. Good talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, about the value of making mistakes now while you have the time, rather than making mistakes then when they'll kill you.
Great example. I mean, look over at the fence. I experimented with doing a rain gutter garden. Basically taking a plastic gutter from Lowe's, drilling holes in the bottom, putting some potting mix and soil in it, and then planting shallow root things like lettuces in it. And I'm taking no space up by doing it. But my soil mix was all wrong because basically it just hardened up, and every time I turned the soaker hoses on, they just ran over and around it and down and out.
Never held on to the moisture.
Never held the moisture at all. So I need to get soil in there that's probably has a lot more characteristics to soak up and hold the water, because that's going to dry out really quick with the sun. And I only expected to have it until like May, early June, and then I would shut it off and turn it back on in like September, October time frame to do a second planting like we can here. But yeah, that failed miserably. If I was relying on that, we would have been in trouble. I think that's about it. I mean, one of my considerations is I'm on septic out here. I'm not on sewer, so you're like, oh wow, look at all the rest of this lawn. Well, I have an aerobic septic, and so I have sprayers, but I have the sprayers angled to do the back probably 50 degrees.
Right.
And not that it would potentially kill you, but it's just not something that you want to be throwing on your plants and stuff you're eating. I mean, I got a chlorinator that everything gets sprayed out with chlorine on, so yeah, I mean, I know it's good, but so I try not to extend past where I'm at, just to stay away from it.
Yeah.
Now, if I had to, plant every square foot of this place back here, if I had to, but the idea around having a community I can mobilize is that I'll go to this guy over here and say, here's bags of corn.
Right. All
you're growing is corn.
Right.
Go to the next guy. Here's bags of this. All you're growing is this.
Right.
Right. Nobody has to have the variety like this. It's having people to then do one specific thing, and even if they don't know what they're doing, I can then go over and help teach,
coach them on
it. And yeah, exactly. No, I'm not going to tell them that you can come over. They need to ask. But yeah, so that's it.
I can't go, Daddy. I can't go without asking.
They need to ask their parents, buddy.
No, I have to ask them. Then they will tell
Okay,
their
go ask.
Tyler.
Go over to the fence, buddy. Go over to the fence. Let us finish this up. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, I got a couple other composters there that flip. They're all right. I thought they'd be super cool, but they're okay. You just have to manage them quite a bit. And I couldn't do that traveling. They dry out all the time. And I've got some wild mint that's growing over by those tomatoes as well.
These are 4x12s, right?
4x12, yep.
And you got them on an automatic waterer?
I do. My wife is not a green thumb.
Is your wife the automatic waterer?
She kills things. The first year I had these, or at least I didn't have them all at once. I started with 3 I started with 3, and then I built 3 more, and then I built 3 others. But while I was traveling, she thought she was watering deep enough when in fact she wasn't, and I was losing everything. So everything was dying. And so to take that out of the equation, I put in a timer, drip irrigation, and ran pipe out here. And so that allows me to either set it on a routine, or more likely what I do is just come out and turn it on.
Cool.
And set it for an hour and 20 minutes
Let
or
it
whatever.
run, or
and just
however
let it
much
run.
it needs.
And long, deep watering, ideally once a week, versus shallow watering.
Right.
Because the deep watering will force roots to go deeper.
Gotcha.
And they'll be stronger the deeper they can get. And more drought tolerant because the roots are deeper.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.